This is Caffeinated Combat. We're going to talk about some fights today. Let's just get
Is
right
that what
into
we do
it.
here?
We're going to get right into it. It is what we do here. Most of the time, but who knows? We get sidetracked pretty easily.
Yeah, we do.
So, UFC 252 just kicked off last night. Stipe Miocic versus DC for the trilogy, the deciding rubber match. Very exciting stuff. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Throughout the entire fight, my nerves were just shot. I was just having a rough time. My heart was beating out of its chest. I was so anxious for both dudes because this is a set of guys where you kind of want both of them to win. You know what I mean? You don't want to see either lose because they've come so far and they're such good dudes outside of the octagon and inside of the octagon. So it's one of those situations where you're just like, every outcome here is bad. So every time something heated up, I was like, oh no, please. So yeah, emotional for the fans, definitely.
Yeah.
But
and the stakes were just incredibly high.
yeah.
They've probably never been this high for either of these guys. Maybe you could say the John Jones fights for DC, but I wouldn't even put that up there as much as this. Certainly Stipe has never had a trilogy like this. It's certainly the biggest rivalry in his career. DC, like I said, maybe you could put the John Jones stuff ahead of it, but the stakes have never been higher for him either. I mean, it's his retirement fight. He's trying to get redemption for the loss. It's the heavyweight championship. There is no bigger title, quite literally. It's the most coveted title, I think. Baddest man on the planet. So the stakes were very high for both of these dudes, and the pressure was real. I was super anxious. But I mean, it was a terrific fight, a terrific war between both of these guys. We're gonna have to talk about the eye poke. It's impossible not to at this point, right?
You're right.
Yeah. Daniel said in between rounds, "Fucking guy went knuckle deep in my eye." Dude,
he tells it like it is.
His eye it's bad. Oh man, that's like Michael Bisping territory right there in terms of eye injuries.
It didn't look like it was working, and he said it wasn't. So very disgusting, if you ask me. Ugh.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, it was swollen or cut, or like the eyebrow was cut and he couldn't see, it was swollen shut. It looked like the eyeball was messed up. That was the creepy part. It was like he became cross-eyed, or like developed a lazy eye, like before, no pun intended, before our eyes. Like that's spooky. But the question is, of course, that everyone has coming out of this: did that dictate the fight? Like, was that the deciding factor? I would argue no. A lot of people would justifiably argue yes. That's the reason Stipe won. And the fact that the referee didn't see it, so like it wasn't really acknowledged. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it made the ultimate difference?
Well, you got to think back to, I think it was the second round, or maybe even the first. But I mean, Stipe got eye poked just as bad, and he's more experienced with dealing with it because in the last two fights, Daniel Cormier used eye pokes as his main weapon, so Stipe's kind of used to this. But I mean, of course I never want to see DC get the medicine used against them or whatever you want to say about it. It's unfortunate, but I don't think Stipe meant to do that. I mean, you watch the replay, you look at him, his reaction, he apologized so many times. He didn't seem like he meant to do it. So I don't think it was one of those things like, oh, you always do this to me. Here's a finger directly in your eye. Like, no. Yeah. But if you watch the replay, I think Daniel's right. That was knuckle deep in his eye. That was rough. But it didn't look any worse than the ones that DC did to him. So I know it may have blinded him in one eye, but at the same time, both of them got eye poked just as bad. You know what I mean? So you definitely have to weigh that in when you're thinking about how this fight went. But yeah, I would still argue that even if he didn't get eye poked, he would probably still win the fight. I know on I believe two of the judges' scorecards he won the first, third, and fourth. Is that when that happened? The fourth round,
I
and
don't
he was
rem-
on his way to win that.
I don't remember which round it was
I,
actually.
I believe it was the fourth, and he was on his way to win the fourth round. So he had 3 rounds regardless before that happened. I mean, according to the judges. So did it make a difference? Of course. Did it make as much of a difference as some people would like to say? I don't think so, but you can't count it out. You know,
Yeah,
I recently had an experience myself. I'll let the fans know. I was playing with my dog and I was poking her with a pool noodle, and I came up and hit myself directly in the eyeball. It doesn't feel good. My vision is still messed up.
you're
So it
basically
definitely
Daniel
it makes
Cormier.
yeah, no, 100%. I looked up. I said he went knuckle deep in my eye, and it's not fun. But I don't think that should be the highlight of the night because Daniel's been known to eye poke for as a primary offensive tool, and you saw Stipe have to get surgery in the last fight because of how bad he was poking his eye. So it's just I think they're even now. You know what I mean? It's come full circle. So I don't know if you want to weigh that in as a deciding factor or not. I wouldn't, but I can understand if you would. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people have been, saying either they're saying it's the reason Stipe won, which I don't think you're necessarily wrong in saying. I think that's only. I think you're not looking at the big picture if you say that. But like, I can't exactly disprove that either. That like, you know, the eye poke didn't make a significant difference. Of course it did, but then I also see people saying, karma's a bitch, which is shitty to say. I mean, the guy could have a really serious eye injury. He might never not see out of that eye again. We don't know. But the way I see it is that you're answering two separate questions there. One is, did DC like, are they even now in terms of eye pokes? Yeah. Does that make it okay? No. Did it alter the course of the fight? That's a completely separate question as to, like, people like to say karma and everything, but like that doesn't mean the referee ignores it. Like, the referee's not gonna make the like, he's not gonna say to himself, oh well, Stipe got eye poked as well, so I'm just gonna look over it. Mark Goddard genuinely thought that was a punch. He did not see it, and honestly, I can't think of a single thing that is harder to see in real time in terms of the like fighting, like fouls and stuff. You can see a fence grab really easily. You can see like a glove hook pretty easily. The positioning might make it a little more difficult. You can see a groin strike pretty easily. Um, Man, eye pokes are hard to see. I didn't see it when I was watching it in real
I didn't
time.
either.
I
Yeah.
never see them, really. Like, it's kind of a blur, and then you look back at the replay and you go, oh, okay. But dude, seeing that shit in real time is hard, especially with the way these guys have been fighting each other. I mean, all three times it was super close, like dirty boxing fighting. And that's because that's primarily the way DC likes to engage his offense. I mean, he did this in every fight with Stipe. He hand fights. He doesn't block in the traditional sense. He hand fights, parries, tries to get in close, clinch up with you, and then lands his most powerful strikes on the break. That's how he won the very first fight with Stipe. And he's been doing the same thing every single time. And oh my God, Stipe ate some shots. I Every time they broke up in the clinch like that, DC was coming with that right hook every single time, and Stipe was eating it, and I was like, how? And I guess they were asking him about it during the post-fight press conference, and his explanation does make sense. Basically, he was saying like, well, I didn't see it coming in that first fight. Like, I didn't know that's how he was gonna win. Obviously, like, I didn't know on the break like that, he would catch me. Since then, he knows that. So, they always say it's the shot you don't see that makes the ultimate difference. That's the one that puts you out. So maybe just anticipating it allows him to eat it like that. I don't know. The guy's got a superhuman chin, I suppose, because he took a lot of strikes in this fight. I mean, in the whole trilogy with these two, he took a lot of strikes. I think he actually, I don't know this for certain. I feel like he got hit more than DC did. I think he was hitting DC would like when it landed, when Stipe landed, his strikes were landing with more devastating effect, but he was having more trouble landing than DC was. DC, I think, was landing more, but he wasn't budging Stipe. I mean, Stipe was just eating one after another. I mean, saying he eats those shots, I think is an understatement. He fucking grabs them in his teeth, chews them up, and swallows them. Like, he, oh man. It was a nuts fight, but it sucks that this eye poke has to be such a prominent discussion point. I said to you, didn't I say to you it was going to be a controversial
Yeah,
fight? I was
you
like
did. Yeah.
something. This trilogy has been a log jam in the heavyweight division for a while now, and I feel like in some ways it still kind of is. I do think DC is done, but you leave this fight with a lot of questions. You leave every fight with questions. No fight answers every question. Each fight answers some questions. No fight answers every question. And a lot of times it poses new ones. This is an example of a fight posing new questions for us. A what if scenario if that eye poke doesn't happen. I don't know. I personally think Stipe still wins the fight, but I would not like hold it against you if you thought that eye poke is ultimately what led to the loss for DC. I think his eye was still kind of fucked even before the poke, but
Yeah, you could see it kind of swelling up from the punches, and then it was the same eye that got poked, and that's just a recipe for disaster. You know what I mean?
mhm.
An eye that's already damaged from blunt force trauma, getting stabbed with Stipe's long fingers. That's
Those
God, it's terrible.
Croatian sausages he's got.
Yes, that's the immigrant mentality. You stick it right in the eye. You know what I'm saying? The problem with seeing eye pokes is that they usually happen when your opponent is throwing heat at you. So the refs like focused on the punches being thrown, and you usually poke them when you're, you know, trying to backtrack and put your hands out to block. So it kind of
Yeah.
they are really hard to see. I agree with you there,
Hmm.
and I think being a ref is just such a stressful job. I mean, you got to pay attention. Like, you have to be 100% attentive that entire time. I mean, you see what happens when the refs days off for even a second. That's when the weird stuff happens. So
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Dan
But
Hardy comes and
yeah,
gives you a
I uh,
roundhouse.
yeah, I wanted to talk about how well both fighters dealt with their key weaknesses in the previous fights. Obviously, you saw with the first fight the clinch work with Daniel, and I believe it was the left hook or right hook,
Right.
some kind of hook. Right, it was a right hook that totally ended his whole career right there. And you saw Stipe doing a wonderful job holding the hands, getting out of the clinch as soon as possible, keeping his head off the center line while in the clinch and while getting out of the clinch. I thought he did a really good job, but he definitely was still getting hit by it. Like, yeah, I mean, you saw the fight. You were just talking about how often he's getting hit by it,
Yeah.
but he definitely saw them coming each time. He made an effort to kind of try and roll with it and look at it, and I think he did really well there. He did really well at the takedown defense. I think 5 out of 5 takedown stuffed, something like that. Very
No,
nice.
I think DC got at least one
They didn't
takedown.
count his takedown in the first round. I saw in the fourth or fifth round they had a statistic that popped up said 5 out of 5 takedowns defended. I
Weird.
guess they didn't count that because he. I don't. I believe it ended up in like a nice little sprawl at first, and then eventually, Stipe just landed on his back. So I don't know if it counted as a takedown. I don't know what they count as takedowns because that to me looks like a takedown, but whatever. But yeah, Stipe did a great job with the wrestling and the clinch work, and then DC did a good job defending the body strikes. I mean, every time Stipe would start getting momentum in the body strikes. Daniel would start clinching, getting close, dirty fighting. He was really pushing the pressure when he needed to, and he did a good job of avoiding those. And I
They
just,
credited Daniel with one takedown, one of
oh,
two,
they did.
one of two. Stipe went 0 for 6.
Oh, I was reading the wrong. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. So Stipe went for 6 takedowns.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
I
what you're
guess
saying?
so.
Okay,
I mean,
I didn't
I
think
think
he did.
I think a lot of those were just set up strikes.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Okay.
like a full effort, you know.
Okay. That confused me when I first saw it. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, so we landed 1 out of 2. Oh,
DC did, yeah.
that seems much less prominent now. Anyway, Stipe did fantastic in that clinch. You know what I'm saying? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Let's just ignore the wrestling part. But that wasn't really a big factor in this fight anyway. I mean, Daniel didn't have many openings to really go for a takedown. Both guys were exhausted by the midway point of that fight. You know, they were throwing heat the entire time. But yeah, I really I'm impressed with both fighters' ability to make adjustments based on their weaknesses as best they can, and it really comes out. And this fight really showed me that this is the best of both worlds that we got here. Two guys that are completely trying to cover their weaknesses and just work to their strengths and constantly just be in each other's faces. And I think the fight itself was just so good. I was a nervous wreck the whole time. I was standing up. I was excited, but it was just a roller coaster of emotions for a lot of fans. But I'm really satisfied with that event. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Daniel didn't go for more takedowns though. I really am. I understand he said that there weren't many openings, but I would at least think he would try to throw one out there and see what happens. Because when he did that, and even when he didn't land them, he was still landing in the clinch, right? He was still getting where he wanted to go. So I didn't really see a reason not to, other than pure exhaustion. But
his corner was encouraging him to wrestle more.
Yeah, it was the same thing you saw in the second fight, and in the second fight, you saw DC hold him on the ground for quite a while, so it seemed like the key to victory here, and to see him not do that at all was strange. I know he was quoted on an interview saying, "Hope you bring your wrestling shoes, Stipe. That's all I'm gonna do." And then he didn't do it. Maybe that was just to get Stipe to train the wrong martial art more dominantly. I don't know really, or maybe he just didn't see openings. I mean, we're not fighters. We don't. He knows more than we do, and maybe we should just take his word for it.
So, according to Ariel Helwani, like a minute ago, doctors said Daniel Cormier suffered a torn cornea last night. No timetable yet for recovery. Wow. Doctors said he won't need surgery just yet, but they have to monitor how it heals before knowing for sure. He was discharged from the hospital last night.
Torn cornea. Oh.
Yeah,
that's not good.
It sounds bad. I don't know exactly how bad of an injury that is, but those two words put together sound mighty scary. Torn and cornea. But
that's two things you don't want.
If they don't think he'll need surgery, then I guess that's good.
Right? I was so worried when he said it was just all black. I was like, oh man. I hope that's temporary blindness.
Yeah.
But still, that's any blindness is not fun, obviously. I'm trying to find what's happened to Stipe, if that was a similar thing that happened to him, but Stipe needed surgery on it, so I'm guessing it's not that.
Yeah, what exactly was
Stipe couldn't see out of his one of his eyes. I know that. I don't know if it was because of a torn cornea though. You know what I mean? Yeah, that doesn't really say what the eye injury was.
It says here most corneal abrasions heal in a day or two. So maybe it's not that bad of a thing. I don't know.
I mean, that's what I had, but I wasn't blind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what worries me. The fact that he actually couldn't see and that the eye was like lazy and limp and not working correctly. I mean, he was cross-eyed for most of that interview.
He looked like Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, he did. So, oh man, I don't know. I wish it didn't happen, but it happened. So you gotta live with it. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think he fights again? I really don't know.
Nah, no. It is a reporter during the post-fight press conference misquoted him so hard it like made me actually kind of angry. Like she, so Daniel said in his post-fight interview with Rogan, Rogan basically asked, "Do you think you come back?" And he said something along the lines of, "At this point in my life, I only want to fight for championships, and I don't think championships are really on the horizon for me right now. So I think that's it."
Right.
Then we're at the post-fight press conference. Dana's up front, and somebody asked, "Do you think he comes back?" And he's like, "I don't know. I mean, I'd love for him to come back, but I'll be happy for him either way." And then this reporter says, "Oh, well, he told Rogan after the fight, he wants to fight for championships." And Dana was like, "Oh, okay." Like basically saying like, "Oh, I knew he'd come back." No, that's not what he said. That's not what he
No,
meant by it.
he
He's
was
saying,
yeah.
"I really only want to fight for titles, but I don't think I'll be getting any title shots, so I think I'm done." So that is different than saying I want to fight for a title. Like those are
Yeah.
two very different things. And I was like, "What? Wait, no, that's
Yeah,
not what
one
he.
of
That's not. You're taking what he said out of context." Classic
that's a
fucking reporter, I guess.
that's a
Taking take.
really far stretch.
Yeah.
One of those statements says I'm going to fight, and the other says I'm not going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it was just a more poetic way of saying I'm not going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's being honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if he here's the thing. I think if Daniel waits to see if Francis gets the title, which he might. I mean, this is a dangerous Francis we're seeing, and he's getting the next title shot. I think that Daniel is a good matchup against Francis.
Yeah.
But
I
anyone is a bad matchup against Francis because of those hands. So I think it would be a fun fight, but I don't know if he'd come back for that. That seems like a lot of risk to his
he
health.
seems not interested in a
Yeah.
lot of the heavyweight division. He was very interested in the Stipe trilogy for the redemption, for Stipe's the champ, wants to go out on top, wants to claim that heavyweight title again. He already beat him once. He knows he could do it. But like as far as the rest of the heavyweight division, he does not seem interested in those fights. Like he does not seem interested in Francis. He does not seem interested in Curtis Blades. Definitely is not interested in a Derek Lewis rematch. Um, Rosenstruik, you have to be a crazy person if you wanna fight that. I think he met his match with Stipe. And I don't just mean like Stipe's better than him. I mean like he literally met his perfect match because both guys beat each other. It's been competitive every time. Um, and I think it's a good way for him to go out. I mean, I know he lost the fight, but like, is anyone like, did anyone watch that fight last night and be like, "Man, Daniel Cormier really sucks"? I mean, probably some fucking meatheads on social media said that,
Just
but
bleed, baby.
I mean, come on, like, yeah, he lost, but
He looked good.
yeah, does anyone think like, DC kind of trash? No, I don't think anyone thinks that. And he's been saying something leading up to this fight that I wholeheartedly agree with. Uh, Basically saying most guys don't go out ceremoniously and on top. They go out when it's much too late. Chris Weidman, BJ Penn, uh, even Anderson, I think you could say. They
Luke Rockhold.
Luke Rockhold,
It's
they're
another guy that's coming back.
guys that stick around way too long, and they just develop these awful losing streaks. And you're like, oh man, somebody needs to tell you to retire. DC's not doing that. Okay, yeah, he lost to Stipe Miocic in two very competitive fights. I don't think that's anything to hang your head in shame about. Uh, the guy might be the greatest heavyweight of all time, at least in the UFC. So I fully respect him for acknowledging, like, hey, I'm still in a good spot relative to my colleagues who are in like the position I'm in when they're nearing retirement. So I'm gonna, uh, you know, check out while the going is good. think that's a great move for him. He's a very smart guy. So I I think he should retire. I think he should stick to his guns and retire. Um, I think we're gonna see him have a much greater role in the UFC in the coming years, bigger than commentator. I fully believe that. I think he is going to be an integral part to running the business. I really do. I think he's such an asset to the company. I don't think they're. I don't think he's just going to be a commentator for the remainder of his time with the company.
I mean, he's got the heart, he's got the knowledge, he's got a lot of good assets to make him a
Hmm
good person to work with in this business. So I
People
agree
like
with you.
him.
Yeah,
Fans
everybody
like him.
except I mean even John Jones kind of jokes around with
Yeah,
him
but like, who
sometimes.
cares what he thinks?
He said he wants to fight Stipe now.
Yeah, I don't
What
care.
happens? What happens if that does happen? Which it won't be for a while, because Dana already said Francis gets the next shot. What happens if John gets the title somehow and then DC comes out of retirement to whoop his ass? That's a fight I would want to happen just to see DC beat him if possible.
That would be
But dude, another
amazing.
loss. Oh man, I think
Oh,
it's worth it though.
it's such
To
a big risk.
dethrone
Such a big
dethrone the
risk.
guy who's been tormenting you your whole career. Oh, that would be juicy,
We would
but
have to
probably
see how
unlikely.
how John looks at heavyweight. I think John would be a great heavyweight. Um,
I mean, he's got the perfect frame for any weight class.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
not
I don't think he'd
flyweight,
have
but
much trouble in the heavyweight division, but I also don't really give a shit. I don't know. I'm much more concerned with what about your light heavyweight title, bud?
yeah.
Are you
Dominic
gonna
Reyes is knocking at your door.
Yeah, are you gonna defend or vacate? Yeah, I mean, hey, just to summarize everything, great trilogy fight from both of these guys. DC's an absolute legend. I'm happy he's leaving just because I still think he's going out pretty much on top, even though he didn't win this fight and he's, not the champion when he's retiring. The dude has done so much remarkable shit in his career and failed so few times um, that I don't care, dude. Like dude, go out, retire happily, continue working with the UFC as a commentator or whatever else. There's so much for him to do. Keep, being a wrestling coach, spend time with your family. I'm so happy for DC, man. This is good. I hope his eye is okay. Um, but yeah, couldn't be happier for both Stipe and DC. Just some great individuals. Can't wait to see what's next for both of them.
Speaking of what's next for both of them, obviously DC is retired. He's probably not coming back. But looks like Stipe is gonna fight Francis next again for the second time. This is
Yeah,
a
it,
renewed Francis who has, I think he's coming off 4 knockout victories inside the first round, if I'm correct. Oof,
something
that's gonna
like
be
that.
a fun matchup because I think both of them have gotten significantly better since their first matchup, and we might be seeing a Ngannou champion. Imagine that. The guy that looks like he should be the heavyweight champion it could be the
Yeah,
heavyweight champion soon enough. And I think he's definitely earned that right, you know.
dude looks like he's chiseled out of
He
marble.
really is the
But
predator, you know? The apex
yeah,
predator.
this is the fight that has to happen. I mean, Francis has earned this heavyweight title shot time and like he's earned it 3 times over. The only thing that's been stopping it is the DC Stipe rivalry. But now that that's over, you gotta put Francis in there as your next heavyweight title contender. It 100% goes to him, and I'm not saying that like it won't. I think it will. I think Dana's on the same page as all of us who are like, yeah, Francis is 100% next in line. He may have to wait a little bit given that Stipe just had a war, um, but I, I think it should happen relatively soon. And yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for both of these guys because, like you said, they've both evolved so much since their first meeting. I think something that's going to be important to pay attention to is the mental game of Francis. So Francis went into that first fight, I think, not anticipating the battle that he had ahead of him. I thought, I think he thought he was going to run through Stipe. I think, which, I mean, he runs through everyone else. So, like, why would Stipe be any different? Oh, it's because he's the most dominant heavyweight champion in UFC history. That's why. But I think Francis thought he was going to run through him, and then when he didn't, he seemed to take like this mental lapse, and we saw that in the Derek Lewis fight where it was like, oh, this guy is like he's not the same. Like it messed him up. Not like he got like battered and his brain is like not working anymore. It's not like that. It's like there's some kind of emotional thing going on with him where he was afraid and he couldn't pull the trigger and he was hesitant on engaging in a battle with Derek Lewis, but he seems to have gotten over that and he looks great. And we haven't seen a whole lot of him. It sucks that we don't get to see more of him, but it's just because he's knocking people out in the first round. So he says his cardio and his wrestling and all of that has improved. He's become a more well-rounded fighter. We only could take his word on that because we haven't really seen it for ourselves. We're gonna see it in this Stipe rematch, if it actually exists, because Stipe is just a force to be reckoned with, and I'm wondering if he thinks he's going to run through Francis this time because of how dominant his last performance against Francis was. And aside from that DC knockout, Stipe, hasn't really declined or anything as a like the guy still looks as great as he did when he beat Francis the first time. So it's going to be interesting to see how the mental game of both of these guys plays out in this rematch.
Yeah, and you got to think what happens after that. If Francis wins or loses, where does my man John Jones come into play? I'm really
Mm.
interested to see his move to heavyweight because he seems like he's really interested in it. He just said he wants to fight Stipe. He wants to move up relatively soon. He's hungry. I haven't seen a John Jones acting this hungry in a long time. You know what I mean? In the light heavyweight champion position, he was kind of complacent, just kind of hanging out, letting them come to him. Dismantling every contender that came his way. But now we're seeing this guy that wants to just go up and feed. And I'm really interested to see what he looks like as a heavyweight without having to cut all that weight and maybe being able to bulk up a little bit more. And I want to see how his skill set translates over to that. But first of all, obviously, that Francis and Stipe fight, that's going to be a good one. I'm really excited for that. I think you hit the nail on the hammer, as I would say. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's the heavyweight division is finally out of that gridlock that it was in. We're
Yeah.
finally seeing progression, and it's such a fun division right now. I love it, especially with the Rosenstruik victory that we just saw on this card. Spoiler alert. We'll talk about that soon. And with Derek Lewis now, and it's just, oh man,
Derek Lewis
so
looking
many.
better. Looking better
Derek
than
is looking like an actual MMA fighter, not just a brawler. It's really
Yeah.
interesting to see these guys evolving this much. The whole division is just becoming this talent pool that we just only really saw with DC Stipe before. Now I don't know.
Where
I
does
think.
the Kevin Lee of the heavyweight division, my man Curtis Blades, fit
Oh,
into all of this, huh?
Curtis is no. He's not someone to be underestimated, but I
Mm-mm.
mean, I don't think Dana White really likes him
He
that
doesn't.
much.
He
So
definitely
I mean, I
doesn't.
don't know. Who knows if he has the same opportunities that these knockout artists have? But I don't know who you would give Curtis.
Maybe
I really
Derek.
don't. Yeah, I mean, give him Derek, give him Rosenstruik. I don't know because he's a good matchup for those guys. He's a skilled dude, but I just don't see him getting the marketing and all that
Or maybe
that
you
these other
do
guys get.
maybe you do Derek and Rosenstruik, and then you give Curtis the winner of Francis and Stipe, and then the winner of Rosenstruik and who did I just say? Derek.
Derek.
They fight the winner of uh, Curtis and whoever the champion
I
is at the
like
time.
that. I like that. I think
Hire
that
me,
works out
Dana.
because I honestly I think Curtis deserves a title shot eventually, relatively soon, even though he gets overlooked a
Absolutely.
good bit.
Absolutely.
He's just got that skill set. You know what I mean?
And where do you put Alistair? You gotta put Alistair in here somewhere.
Is
Um,
he? Does he? He doesn't have a fight yet, does he?
I don't know. I don't think so. Which is
It's been
weird.
like 2 months since his last one, and we have no announcements on a new Alistair fight. Oh, bless you.
Excuse me. Oh,
Bless you, my child.
thank you, sir.
Are you okay?
I feel another one.
That didn't sound good. Oh, Jesus. We lost
All
him.
right. I think I'm good now.
Anyway, heavyweight division, looking good.
What do you think
I like
about JDS? Do you think it's time for him to retire?
No, I mean, I don't count a loss to Rosenstruik as a huge deal. You know what I mean? Because
Even when you get like
raisin
brutally knocked
bread.
out?
Okay. Yeah, he's been brutally knocked out a lot in his last couple fights here, so
I mean,
it might be time to hang up.
he still looks competitive. He's not going in there and getting like annihilated, but
Yeah, I'm just worried about how many times he can take that kind of punishment before he starts becoming like Chris Weidman. You know what I mean? Just completely brainless.
I'm back,
Zombie.
middleweight division.
I don't know where to put him. If he shaves the stash, I say he still has a few fights in him, but I don't know if he doesn't. I don't know, man. Maybe give him someone a little less.
Speaking of Chris Weidman, I think it's about time we brought this up. That there is a very good chance that I saw a teammate of Chris Weidman in the flesh in my real life world. I think I saw lightweight contender Ragin Al Iaquinta in a fucking grocery store. How about that? You already know about this, but I'm telling the audience for whatever they're worth. Yeah, so I was, what day was it? What day?
It was like 3 days ago, I
Yeah,
think.
it was like 3 days. Well, what day would that be? Because
So Friday? I think it was the day before the event.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Friday. Hang on. Wait for the Sons of Anarchy. Wow.
They're going to their fundraiser.
That's real cool. That's real cool. Yeah, so I was in a giant market in Pennsylvania for all you foreign listeners.
All the UAE warrior executives that are
Hey, they never got back to me. How about that?
It's kind of messed up, man.
Yeah.
You put your heart into that application.
But anyway, I'm at a giant market, and I see a very tan, large, muscular gentleman with curly brown hair with a American flag tank top on standing behind me, and I'm trying to get a good look at him, but it's tough because obviously everyone's wearing masks, and he kept looking back at me like, what the hell are you looking at, kid? And I just kept looking back at him. And then the following day, he made some post on Instagram about like mybookie.com or some shit like that. And I commented on it and said, I swear to God, I saw Ragin' Al at a grocery store the other day. Curly hair gives him away. And he liked my comment. Now, I don't know about you, but I interpret a like as like a, yeah, you did see me. Yep, I saw you too. That was me. Like my comment made him recall our weird interaction from afar, and he was liking to confirm that, that I did in fact see him. Do you think that's a fair
I think
assessment
it was him.
Of the like?
I don't think he would have liked that. I mean, if some random dude posted on your post, if someone commented on your post saying, "Hey, I think I saw you somewhere," and it wasn't you, you knew it wasn't you wouldn't like it, would you?
No, but I'm also not the baddest realtor on the planet.
That's true. We don't know how Ragin' Al thinks. He's got a mind of a higher power than we do.
I was looking at the rest of his comments on that post. He liked about every single one of them. Now, granted, they were all like positive. Like, they weren't like, hey, fuck you, Al, you suck. Like, it wasn't like he was liking that kind of stuff. But I'm wondering if he just scrolls and likes everything he sees.
Nah, dude, don't break your dream like that.
Ragin' Al likes everything he sees on the gram. Every single post, every single comment, every single message. He gives it all that heart because Ragin' Al got a big heart. Ragin' Al, if you're listening, hit me up.
We would love to work with you, Ragin'. We got no money, but we'd love to work with you.
What could we offer him?
A platform.
As opposed to his social media platform that has hundreds of thousands of followers.
Worthless without the cast.
Our
So
podcast
yeah,
that
there
gets maybe
not
200
many,
views,
hey, not
29
many,
subs.
30,
We're at
I
30?
think. Yeah,
Yay!
30 subscriber special. We're gonna go to Ragin Al's house and confront him about the grocery store visit.
Plot twist, he
We're
sells
gonna.
us his house.
Oh.
The baddest realtor on the planet.
I love it, dude. I love it. He is so. Oh my god, I really want to see him fight again. But after what Cowboy did to him, I think he's a little complacent now. He doesn't want to do anything.
Yeah, he hasn't been terribly active.
It's a shame. And this is kind of what Al does. He hangs out for a bit in between fights.
Give him Michael
'Cause he's
Chandler. Sign Michael Chandler.
Oh
and
no. That's a good matchup though. Dana White in the post press conference said he was very interested in meeting with Michael Chandler and oh man, that's good. I like my boy Mike, but Raging Al doesn't want any of that heat. You know what I'm saying? We got to keep him far away.
You sure about that?
He probably does.
Does Raging Al strike you as the kind of guy that'd be like, no, sorry, I'm afraid I'm not gonna take that fight?
No, he doesn't give a fuck at all. Especially with that haircut, dude.
Yeah, the new hair looks good on him.
Kyle,
Matthew,
let's get down to business here.
Okay.
There is a rising star in the UFC that tried to take a flight down to Mexico and got completely dismantled. My man Chito Vera destroyed Sean O'Malley
Chito Vera
via
is not
perennial nerve.
He's not Mexican. I think he's Colombian.
Okay, I might have read some YouTube comments that thought otherwise.
Well, let's see.
They weren't the most politically correct comments, so maybe I shouldn't have been listening to them.
Let's see where he was born real quick. Ecuador.
He did not have a Mexican flag.
I was also wrong. I got the Colombian and the Ecuadorian flag confused.
Yeah, so I watched the Weasel, one of my favorite MMA YouTubers, go over this fight, and he claims that it was a perennial nerve strike that Chito targeted to make his leg basically die on him. And if that's true, I don't know if that's a nod to Chito Vera or if that's like a severe red flag for Sean O'Malley for having such a vulnerability to that attack. I really don't know what to make of it if that's true. I'm going to say that it wasn't unintentional that he did that. Do you think it was intentional or unintentional? What do you think happened there in terms of that injury? There's not really a common consensus on what happened here.
Yeah, so here's the question. So you know when he did that little like stutter step and then he like rolled on his ankle?
Yeah.
Was that before or after Chito like targeted this nerve?
That was after.
Okay. So the theory is that, the way I see it, the theory is that Chito targeted that nerve. It gave him like a dead leg. His leg wasn't working right. Then he rolled on it and that caused the injury. Not necessarily the nerve strike caused the injury. The nerve strike caused a movement that caused the injury. That's what I'm getting from this. I mean, yeah, you have to give props to Chito Vera. Chito Vera is a badass. He's a staple in the division. Everyone was underestimating him. Hey, props to him. Well deserved. The thing Sean O'Malley has to think about right now, I don't think his stock like goes down. I don't think people who are Sean O'Malley fans are not going to be like, well, I'm not a Sean O'Malley fan anymore because he injured his leg in a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Anderson Silva had one of the most gruesome leg injuries ever. The guy is still considered a GOAT by many people. I don't think his stock like plummets because of this. But I think what you do have to worry about after everything is squared away and his leg is healthy, everyone is going to target that leg from here on out. Everybody is going to throw leg kicks when they fight Sean O'Malley. Everybody. So that is something he really has to worry about, I think, because even if his leg, even if it's fine and it heals up and he's good, he's ready to go, a few really strong kicks to that leg, I don't know. It's already been injured. Was it the same leg that's been injured both times?
Yeah, the same one.
So it's an obvious weakness, right?
The only difference between those two fights is that Marlon Vera actually capitalized on the injury,
Yeah.
whereas his other opponent did not.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's something that everyone's going to target. Apparently, an X-ray came back and there was no like break or fracture or anything like that. They're waiting on an MRI. That's what I heard from Ariel Helwani today. Well, not me personally, but that's what I saw on Instagram. Ariel called me up and was like, "Listen, I got the scoop for Caffeinated Combat," and I was like, "Give it to me straight, Ariel.
Your
I'm
ears
taking
only.
this story to the top." But yeah, so I mean, we have to see what the deal is with his leg. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be rough for him because even after all this, therapy, rehab that he gets on it, even when it seems like it might be fully healed, it's gonna get targeted again and again and again and again. Like it's an obvious weakness. Just like after, let's just say hypothetically Daniel Cormier kept competing after after Stipe put him down with those body shots. Every single person he fought would target the body, every single one, because it's an obvious weakness. Once those
Right.
weaknesses get exposed, it really threatens your future, um, and how well you could fight off that weakness, and people are going to be targeting it, which I think has to play into like your psyche a little bit. It has to screw with you. No, coming back from a very obvious injury that got targeted in your last outing, that has to screw with you, knowing that your next opponent is going to target that 100%. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean,
I
well,
think that it makes his fights more intriguing almost.
yeah,
Because you're
for
always going
us,
to be
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of questions for the fans. Like, is he going to be able to overcome this? Are his opponents going to be able to take him down using this tactic, or is he actually going to make the adjustments, if he could make the adjustments, to nullify that kind of attack? It raises a lot of questions that I think are interesting, in terms of almost like a Khabib fight. You know what's going to happen, and could they do anything about it? You
right,
know, it's almost like on paper the game plan that you could very well predict. So I think that makes it different from other fights, a little more intriguing. I'm really excited to see where he goes from this. I love Sean O'Malley. I wasn't a huge fan of the way they were marketing him because I feel like they were pushing him a little too far, a little too fast. He's a skilled guy, 100%, but they're making him out to be this next level superstar that could just defeat everybody when he never fought a ranked opponent in his life. But, you know what I mean. It seemed kind of strange, but
it did feel a
is
bit premature. I
yeah
think
is
he has he has everything that a star could want. He has a unique look. He has a likable, um, entertaining personality. He knows how to engage with the newer MMA audience. He has a fighting style that appeals to a wide MMA audience, right? Like it's the antithesis of like the Curtis Blade style. Curtis Blade
hmm
style is very much like, lay and pray, that kind of thing.
yeah.
He's a profoundly gifted striker. Um, it's just he has this hiccup now in his game, this hiccup that has been exposed. Um, but I agree they were pushing him a lot, but I get why they were doing it because I think like I said, he has star potential.
Yeah.
Maybe he's already a star. I don't know. I never really know how to gauge that. I always try to gauge it as like, does the average person know who this guy is? And I still think the answer is no. I would say the answer is no for most mixed martial artists, with the exception of people like Connor and Khabib,
Like Anderson and
Khabib,
yeah.
GSP Anderson, John Jones maybe, uh, the Diaz brothers. Like I never know how to gauge that kind of thing. Masvidal. I would still say the answer is no, but he's certainly extremely popular, especially amongst the hardcore audience. But Chito was getting overlooked in this fight. Uh, he got robbed, I think, in his last outing, and people just weren't. I think he felt people weren't putting enough respect on his name. So this win for him really, he was just reveling in it. I mean, he was talking mad shit, and
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, he feels disrespected. He feels like people weren't, giving him the credit he deserves, and they were pushing this newer guy who he felt was not really all he was cracked up to be. And maybe he was right, maybe he wasn't. We'll have to see, but uh, the point still stands. I think Chito Vera is certainly a force to be reckoned with at bantamweight, and I think that could still be said for Sean O'Malley. And we just have a lot of questions now. Only time will tell. But the guy has star potential, and I don't think that stardom really dwindled too much here because, uh, it's not like he went out there and got like beat up for 5 rounds. Like it was
Yeah.
kind of a freak thing.
What I find funny, going back on that one fight, or the I think it was the last fight he had with Song Yudong, the very controversial one.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm correct, even the commentators said now he's on a 7-fight win streak, counting that fight as a win for him. I remember a couple times they kept saying 7-fight win streak, 7-fight win streak. It's almost like Joe Rogan just doesn't believe in that to actually be an official loss, and I find that kind of funny.
Didn't he say that to him in the post-fight interview? Didn't Joe say I was one of the people who also thought you got
Yeah,
robbed in your last outing? I
yeah.
think
I
he
mean, we
did.
watched that card, obviously, and we thought the same thing. That was a weird decision,
That
man.
was
That
a
was
weird
really weird.
card. I remember there was a lot of questionable
Yeah,
decisions on that card.
that there were 2 or 3. I remember
Where
we
was
had a
that at?
segment where he just did 3 in a row. Was that in New York?
Was it
No.
the Apex? We were already in quarantine, weren't we?
Oh, I think it was when it was first starting. I don't remember where it was. I just
Oh,
remember the
it was
judges were.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh
That's
yes,
where
I
the
could. Yeah, because they went to Florida for a bit because they
yeah,
were actually letting
they
them go.
had that
Okay, I remember.
they had
Yeah,
that three card,
yeah.
that Saturday, Wednesday,
Oh
Saturday
man,
thing.
I think that was the Wednesday card.
Yeah.
I don't
The main
remember.
event was Glover and Anthony, right? Glover, Teixeira, Anthony Smith. I think that was our very first podcast, right?
Oh my god, yeah, that was never uploaded though. The first one we uploaded was number 2. We don't have a number
Oh,
1.
yeah.
Alistair Overeem. Number
Alistair and
1
Walt
is a
Harris.
forbidden mystery that no one will ever know about.
Yeah. What were the three main events in the Jacksonville run? It was Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira, Alistair, Walt Harris. There was a pay-per-view, right?
I want to say it was Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje.
Was
I
it?
remember being very disappointed on the third event.
Oh yeah, because and Dom and Henry.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
the worst. That was the
Yeah, that
worst
was
pay-per-view
the
I've ever
anti-Matt
watched.
Drumstick card. All of
I
Matt's
love the card was good, but like I just loved the fighters that
all
lost. You
of
know what I
Matt's
mean?
heroes got vanquished in
Yeah.
one night.
It was a humbling experience. I was never quite the same after that card.
When was Tyron and Gilbert? When was that?
That was semi recent. It was at the Apex, but I don't know exactly when it was.
Okay. Um, what else? What else is there to talk about on this card? We covered DC
Rosenstruik,
Steep.
Raisin Bread.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, I almost said
Rosenstruik. We
Rosenstruik.
kind of went over that.
Yeah, I mean, there was not much to talk about. They both looked very good. They both are high-level strikers. The top of the food chain, in my opinion. I mean, look at the guys too. Physique-wise, impressive. Striking-wise, very impressive.
Yeah,
And their whole
JDS
fight was really
JDS looked
good. I
better
liked it.
than he
Yeah,
normally does, but he's still, Rosenstruik's
I
got
mean,
insane power.
yeah. Look at the dude. He's huge. He
He's
doesn't
got
look like he should
a
be in that
really
weight class.
a really decorated kickboxing career too.
Yeah, kickboxing is really impressive.
Kickboxing career.
I like making fun of you for not being able to talk when that's like my main thing. I just can never speak correctly.
Dude, speaking of
Um,
kickboxing, I'm excited for to play in that new UFC 4 like venue,
mm,
the one the
yeah,
one they showed in the trailer with Israel.
yeah,
That's like a kickboxing thing, right?
yeah. That is.
The
It's out
the
now. You should play it.
Kumite, I think it's called. I don't really know the whole origin of it really. I just know they're attributing it to Israel, and he obviously also has a decorated kickboxing degree. Oh man, I want to say kickboxing now every time.
Kickboxing. That
Yeah,
game, I didn't realize it was out so soon.
yeah, dude, I do want to play it. I just also don't
Do you
want to
know?
spend $60.
Do you know what game looks like UFC 4 in terms of graphics? The
UFC
new,
3.
no, the new Fast and Furious Crossroads game.
Oh,
Did
that
you
game
see
looks
that?
terrible.
It's 2 hours long, and it got, I think it had 54 players at its peak at one
Wait, it's
time
an
on
online
launch.
game?
No, I mean like 54 people playing it at the same time, like single player.
Oh,
That's the max amount that we're playing it
did it
at the
get
same
review
time.
bombed?
Oh, it's bad. It's completely negative, dude. It's a
Damn,
horrible game. All right, it's not a horrible game, but for $60, like it's bad.
damn,
I
dude.
watched a playthrough in like an hour, just because of the memes. It's hilarious. But this is not a Need for Speed show this is the MMA show.
I
We
do
talk about
really want
MMA
to
here.
play UFC 4 though. I mean,
Yeah, it
I
looks it
put
looks innovated. I don't know.
yeah, slightly, but the thing is, I put insane hours into UFC 3. Dude,
You're a fucking
I
legend.
played it yesterday. Like, I have been playing that game on and off for centuries. I have put probably more hours into UFC 3 than anyone on the planet. I'm not like terrific at it. Like I'm pretty I mean I fight all my fights on legendary difficulty with no HUD, but that's just because I'm a bad
Oh,
motherfucker.
yeah. Just oh my god, I'm
um,
wet right
but
now. Fuck.
I would still probably go online and get absolutely annihilated. I don't really play online because every time I have, it's been a terrible experience with like connection issues.
Yeah.
And but yeah, dude, I love the UFC games so much. I love them. I mean, they're not the most well-made thing. It's kind of like Madden, where they're just kind of reskinning it, updating the roster, and putting out a new one. Albeit they do it less than Madden. Madden does it like egregiously every single year. It's just the same garbage. But the UFC games aren't far behind. But oh my god, I have so much fun with them. The career modes, the just yeah, I have a great time with them. I love doing the career modes as like different, just doing it as a different style every
Yeah.
time. I don't really like creating characters as much. I like playing as real fighters and trying to mimic their real life skill sets. So like when you play a career mode, you can kind of, even if you're using a real fighter, you can kind of like form them any way you want. So like you could play Khabib and make him like a Rosenstruik striker. Like if you
Yeah.
want to form him that way,
Yeah.
it's kind of all cosmetic. With the exception of like your base starting stats when you start a career mode as a real fighter. But what I like to do is play career modes as real fighters and then try to mimic and form them into their real life selves. So like one of the most fun I've ever had in a career mode in that game was as Khabib, and I made him just into an insane wrestler, and it was so fun. Like I was just dominating people on the ground. A lot of my fights were going to decision. I was just massively outpointing people. I was getting some submissions. I was getting some ground and pound victories. It was a ton of fun. Um, I did
I gotta start doing that. That
yeah,
sounds
dude,
much
it's a
more
good
fun than to
time.
create a character.
I did it with GSP, made him like as well rounded as possible. Sometimes I wrestled,
Yeah.
sometimes I'd strike. I did one with Nate Diaz. I made him just an absolute incredible boxer. I did the same thing with RAGIN, made him a great boxer. It's super fun to do. I really enjoy it, and I definitely do want to play UFC 4 like really bad. I just can't
I
really
wish they would go
afford
on
it.
sale because $60 is a lot
Well, my
for
cousin,
basically
my
what
cousin
you
Vince brought up a good point the other day. He was like, "Dude, it'll be down to like $20 in a few months." And I was like, "Yeah,
Christmas
you're,
sales too. Like think about that,
yeah, Christmas
I'll
is,
probably get it for that
yeah."
when it goes on sale for that price.
Those games tend to go on. It's not like a Call of Duty where they say $60 for like 3 years. Like
And then go free to play after you buy them.
these sports games tend to go down pretty quickly. I don't think they sell like terribly well, so they'll go down in price in no time. But I really I kind of wanted to get it just to get like get it early to play as Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua.
Oh yeah, I forgot that they're
Yeah,
free to download
I
right now.
mean,
Is that a limited time thing?
I think so. Yeah,
Damn.
yeah, I know. I still can't justify $60 even for that. I just but because I buy new games all the time, so I kind of have to be careful with how much I spend. Um, but yeah, I was really hyped when I saw Anthony or not Anthony Tyson Fury in it because I'm a huge Tyson Fury fan, and it'd be really
The the cover art is so strange that I find like it's like a non UFC fan would look at that and be like, why are these two men just standing in normal clothing on a
it
beach?
is very
It's
strange.
I like it though. I
It's
think it works.
unique. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it too. I really like the cover art they have in UFC 3 when they made like the Notorious edition, and I'm looking at it right now because I have my PS4 on. It's like Connor with the two belts and all like the crazy art behind him, and it's like all neon and pink and yellow, and it looks really freaking cool. It looks better than like your at like just regular Connor and Ronda standing there. Um, yeah, I mean it's unique cover art. I like it. I'm happy they went with Jorge and Israel. Um,
Oh yeah, I see that. I see that cover you're talking about with Connor. That is cool.
yeah,
Wow.
it's really nice. Um, but I'm glad they went with Jorge and Israel and not like just Connor. I don't know, like Connor is still the biggest star in the sport. I get that, but like I don't know.
He's not around right now.
Yeah,
He's not. He's basically not a part of it
I feel
at the
like these
moment.
guys are more deserving. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the most deserving people I think are Daniel Cormier and Amanda Nunes. I think Daniel Cormier and Amanda Nunes should have been on the cover. Can you imagine that? Just the two of them with four. Or I would say if he didn't just retire, Cejudo as well. Imagine DC, Cejudo, and Amanda. That's
Oh man,
6 belts on the cover.
that would actually be very very marketable. Think about that.
You could even put Connor because he was a double champ too. Like
Yeah, put all the double champs on.
8 belts on the cover. That'd be cool as hell. But I mean, I think it's cool they did a non-champion, just a guy that's
Yeah,
like
just people that
a
fighters like, you
badass,
know.
But
A lot of people really hate it and find it lazy, but I think it's ultimately better than what they've basically copy and pasted for the last three minus the Connor edition. You know what I mean? I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
I don't see a problem with it. But I looked at the Madden one; it does look pretty bad.
yeah.
Because their EA is doing this for all their new games, I think, or maybe just Madden and UFC.
But here's the thing: I think non-MMA fans would also think the UFC one looks bad. Like we probably think the Madden one looks bad because we're not really football fans.
Yeah, that's
Like
that's true.
like you said, the average person sees some two douchebags standing by nice cars and wearing Gucci clothes. We see two of the baddest men on the planet. We see Jorge Masvidal, the guy with the record-breaking knockout, the guy who shot into stardom with ease. And then we see Israel Adesanya, the greatest middleweight in the world, who had a John Jones-esque rise to championship level. So we're biased in that
They should have
regard.
they should have made Amanda Rebus on the cover. She's 101, I think. That was her record that they posted. It's crazy.
Yeah, greatest MMA record of all time.
I remember seeing that dude and I was like, "What? Excuse me?"
I do think they could have put Nunes with it. I
Yeah.
feel like that was a little bit of a disservice to her.
I guarantee you the marketing team is not they're not UFC fans. It's just a marketing team, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're
Most
right.
of these companies aren't really a part of the actual product. They
Yeah,
just look at what's popular and they go, "Here you go.
it's
Here's
just
some
like
cover art."
I feel like Nunes is such a great person to put at the front of your brand when we I don't want to get like too like political or anything, but we live in a very progressive society, at least in the United States, which is I'm sure the biggest market for this game. And Amanda is like very much the embodiment of that. Not only is she a woman fighter, but she's a woman openly gay fighter, and
Yeah.
she's awesome. Like she's just one of the most badass dominant fighters in the world, and she's a really cool person. It's not like the John Jones kind of thing where it's like, hey, we put this guy on the cover because he's a really good fighter, but he's kind of a piece of shit in real life. Whereas like Amanda is just like seems like one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And yeah, I think it would have been cool to have, you know, a woman fighter, the greatest woman fighter of all time, who's also openly gay. Like that's cool to have, and not just because oh, she's a woman and she's openly gay, so she checks off a box. No, she's a woman who's openly gay, who's also like a absolute badass and just one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen grace the octagon. Like every time Amanda performs, it's just a crazy good spectacle. Like I feel like I'm watching, somebody who is light years ahead of her competition. But yeah, what are you gonna do? I mean, I think she's in the Modelo ads right now, which is cool.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, because every time those Modelo ads, they pick up someone, it's like, ugh, they kind of have a down. Like, okay, they had Stipe. Stipe's still incredibly popular and dominant, but he got knocked out by DC right around the time they start running that ad. Brian Ortega, like,
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
dismantled by Max Holloway and hasn't fought since.
Yeah, they put DC on right before he got knocked out by Stipe
Ah,
too. I remember seeing that and I was like, "Oh, you guys have horrible
didn't
timing
they
with
do?
this."
Did they do Max Holloway as well right before the
Yes,
Volkanovski loss?
they did. It's the
Oh,
Modelo curse.
the Modelo curse.
Except Amanda is so far clean from it. So
Yeah, it's
hopefully
gonna
she
take a
stays
lot
out of
more
that.
than a beer ad to take her down. Like
Yeah.
she's in.
She's immune to curses.
Well, it's not just that she is one of the greatest to ever do it. It's there's not a ton of competition for her.
They should have put Henry Cejudo and Amanda on. I want to see them fight.
Nobody likes Henry Cejudo. That's the
Yeah, but
problem.
we want to see the intergender champion. That should have been the story mode of this game, rising to be the intergender champion.
Dude, I would pay ridiculous amounts of money to see Amanda Nunes knock out Henry Cejudo.
You think she would?
I think she put up a damn good. I think it'd be a damn good fight. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
think it
lie.
would be a fucking war.
Like, listen, I think 99.9% of the time a male fighter beats a female fighter. And that's not me being like, a misogynist, sexist, male chauvinist. It's just the reality is the male fighters tend to be, you know, a, a lot more talented and a lot more dominant than your average female fighter, generally speaking. Amanda is not generally speaking. Same with I think Valentina Shevchenko. She's not generally speaking Chris Cyborg. These are women that would stand toe to toe with the vast majority of men, and I think you know if not win, at least put up a really good fight.
Well, that's the card, folks. Amanda Nunes and Henry Cejudo. They're
Buy
fighting soon.
UFC 4 now. Sponsored by UFC 4. UFC 4. UFC 4. Sunday,
I gotta
Sunday,
wonder.
Sunday.
I wonder how much money they charge companies to put their ads in the octagon, and what the price difference is between putting it in the center, on the side, on the wall. I want, you know what I mean. These are answers that we don't have that we need to figure out. They should be in the new UFC game. You're like an analyst, and you have to find out the best sponsorship for a company.
I said they should have like a actually, I don't know if I was the one that said this. I think I saw this somewhere on like a comment or something that that I read. I don't know if this is my original idea. I can't recall if I came up with this or I read it somewhere and thought it was my own. But a management mode in the UFC games, like a C or what the hell, like a promoter mode, kind of like the football in the Madden games. You could play like franchise mode where you like run a team. I think they should do that with the UFC, where you play as Dana White and you have to make up the best matches and try to generate the most pay-per-view buys, promote the best rivalries on like social media and stuff, and deal with short notice replacements and fighter contracts and all that. And you
Hmm.
basically just have to like stay afloat, like keep the business
Yeah,
running.
it's like a battle between keeping the fans happy while also putting on an exciting event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like trying to find that perfect spot where it's still like competitive with the rankings. It still makes sense logically that these people are fighting, and it's still entertaining to the fans, and it's still a
I
good
think that
card
would be
while
a
remaining true to the
terrific mode
rankings.
in the UFC
Yeah,
game,
yeah, I think it would be fun.
like a manager mode. I think that would be so much fun.
When
Play it.
when you get into the UFC, you could talk to Dana about this.
It's my dream to work for the UFC, like in a production capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've told you about that before. Like that's my dream job. Do I think I'll
that's
get it
not
anytime
a
soon?
very.
No.
It's not very unobtainable though. You know.
Like I would love to work on like Embedded or something like that. Like that would oh man, I would kill to be part of like a production crew that follows around fucking Nate Diaz for a week before his fight. Like oh my god,
It'd
that's
be
the
awesome. Yeah.
coolest job in the world. And like being like an editor or like a director of photography or something like that for one of those series that they had, one of their production series. Oh, that would be so much fun. But yeah, I think a manager mode would be really cool in the UFC games if they could pull it off. You play it like you would play a strategy game, like you would play like Civilization or something, keeping your civilization afloat and
Competing with opposite like promoters and
yeah.
having to snatch their fighters.
Yeah,
That'd be funny.
that would be cool too. They could even have like made up organizations, just
Yeah.
fighters league or league of combat or shit like that, and their rival organizations, and you could like trade fighters with them, or try to compete with them. I think that'd be really really fun, but that requires a lot of innovation.
That's a lot of work,
Yeah,
and I don't know if they're going to be ready for that.
nah, they don't do that. They just copy and paste shit into next year's
In
edition.
UFC 7, we'll get something like that. You know?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to keep going up just forever. We'll be like 30 years old and we'll see UFC like 13. I don't know. I mean, they do it with Madden, right?
Say that
Isn't
again?
it? Like, do you think they'll just keep rising the numeral from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? You think they'll just keep going up every year?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Fuck, dude.
I know.
That's going to be a. I mean, what else can they fucking do? That's a stupid question.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about my man, Herbert Burns.
Oh
Didn't look
yeah.
too good.
He didn't
He
look
was
good
the
at all.
second fight. No, I think the coronavirus really took him and killed him, man. His lungs just weren't there. He
Well, he
gassed
didn't
out
have
in
it,
like the
did he?
first 4 seconds.
Did he have COVID?
Yeah. His
Really?
brother, yeah, Gilbert, I'm sorry, and Gerbert. Both of them had it.
Seriously? Oh shit, I
Yeah.
didn't know
I
that.
was so weird when I saw him on the card. I was like, that's quick. He must have recovered semi quickly from that.
Jeez. Wow.
I was feeling scared when he was hugging people and getting so close to people. I was like, this man, he was just infected.
I wonder if it had to have had an impact on his performance, right?
I would think so. I mean, even if you're asymptomatic, I know it still messes with your lungs. It just seemed like he gassed out really quick. I don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't really
Jeez.
get to see him very much, though, in prolonged bouts, so maybe he just doesn't have the gas tank required for his fighting style.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow, I had no idea he was. I knew his brother was, but I didn't know he did too.
His whole gym got it. It was wild. That stuff
Shit.
spreads like wildfire.
I would love to hear an interview with him if he, somebody asked him like, "Hey, do you think it impact like how did you feel? Do you think it impacted
Yeah.
even if you were negative, you tested negative now, do you think the residual effects, played a part in your performance?" Wow, that really sucks.
It makes you wonder when Gilbert's gonna come back, because I know Tyron and Colby are all taken.
Yeah, and how he's
Usman,
going to look when he comes
yeah,
back, yeah.
Usman doesn't have an opponent, right?
I don't
No.
think so. Not right
So
now.
I guess he's waiting for Gilbert.
I suppose, yeah. He's
Oh
going to
man, that's gonna be juicy. He's got the fighting style to defeat him, 100%.
yeah.
Unless the COVID took him out.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. That's oof.
After watching the Jorge fight, I really wish that he didn't test positive. That he avoided the virus and got to fight Usman. That would have been such a better fight.
Yeah, but leading up to that fight, it was so exciting. We
It
were
was. I
so
was.
excited.
100%.
Like we were,
George.
because that all evolved so quickly. It all happened like in a few days.
It was like he came out from the sidelines and just saved the card. That's the whole
Yeah.
narrative of the situation.
Even though
And
the
then he just
fight
got foot stomped.
was a bit lackluster.
Usman said, "So I'm gonna stomp your feet for 15 or 25 minutes."
Yeah.
Didn't pan out too well.
No, it
But
did not.
oh well. I think Gilbert's gonna come in and just wreck Usman. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah? I don't know. I
If not, I think it'll be very competitive, almost like Stipe Cormier.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
just
would
think
I would
Gilbert's
agree with
better
that.
on the ground, better in the clinch, and I
He's a
don't
damn good
see.
striker.
Yeah, I don't see the striking being much different either. I don't know. I mean, Usman's so good though, but Gilbert just seems better. Oh man, I want to see that so bad. But well, I'll probably have to wait a good bit for that since
Yeah.
he's still on the sidelines. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to talk about besides John Dodson's murder?
No,
What
dude.
happened, Johnny boy?
I gotta use the bathroom again, so
All right, folks, this was Caffeinated Combat number 14.
This
Thank
happens
you for
every
stopping
week.
by. We drink coffee and then we have to go take pisses. You know,
No, that's not what
it's
I have
part
to
of the
do.
game. Oh my God, this man. That's so. Oh man, what the fuck? I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're gonna head out.
Yeah.
So thank you all for
I'll
listening.
catch you later.
I'll see ya.